Fender Japan did not want these to leave their country. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. But hey, we got them in the United States, we're gonna document them, and then I'm gonna send it off to Canada. More on that story in a second. Let's appreciate this unique made-in-Japan telly. Or perhaps more properly, I should say Esquire, because it's just a single pickup, no pick guard. It's actually branded Esquire at the top. If you need to learn about those, you can check out this episode where we documented one. You'll get all the nitty-gritty info on that. We've got enough topics to talk about today. So this is known as an Art Canvas guitar. Fender Japan has done quite a few of these over the years, where they feature Japanese and world-known artists, and they put their designs on their guitars. I know, kind of a niche topic, but you have some interesting designs like Yusuke Hanai's, as well as the summertime vibes in a pink and blue. I was a big fan of the surf-themed heather brown ones. There's one that was more of a predominant green, the other one was more blue. I thought the plain one was absolutely hilarious because you just get to paint it yourself. But what's interesting about these is they typically have ash bodies, but then they paint them in a satin white finish, kind of like a canvas, and then they have an art design on top of them. However, for the Fender Flagship Tokyo store, to celebrate their 1-year anniversary, they did 4 limited edition guitars. There was a very special and expensive Urushi Stratocaster for 495,000 yen that utilizes a very special lacquer technique that gets you the blackest of the black, most pure lacquer paint that they can only make a small amount of out of a 20-plus-year-old lacquer tree. And then they had 3 new ones in the Art Canvas series by perhaps Japan's most famous artist, Hokusai, all the way from the Edo period. While he did many works throughout his life, he's most famous for his 36 views of Mount Fuji. So our 3 new Art Canvas guitars are the Great Wave, the view from Tama River, and just straight up Mount Fuji, basically its peak. And these were 198,000 yen. Surprisingly, with a case. Fender Japan stuff don't actually come with cases. However, there were special rules to this. There's Japan exclusive guitars, and then there's Japan exclusive, where they really don't want them to leave the country. So here were the crazy rules for this one. You had to register to win the lottery to be allowed to purchase any of those 4 guitars. And Josh, a Canadian viewer, reached out to me to see if it would be possible to get it out of Japan. And thankfully, I have viewers of the show in Japan that help make things like this possible. So we all entered the lottery. I didn't win, my friend in Japan didn't win, but Josh did. Not on 1, but 2. We were going for all 4. Unfortunately, I do not have the Urushi Stratocaster in the other case. I was really hoping for that because Fender Japan only does a few of those per year and I would love to document one. But we did happen to get the 2 Mount Fuji inspired ones. It was after the Great Wave, so we just didn't get the ones we wanted, but when it comes to the lottery system, you take what you can get. It'll be fun to document these today. But that's not the end of our tale. There were even more crazy rules that Fender Japan has introduced to keep these in Japan. So, after you win the lottery, that's when they let you know, hey, you have to pay in person. We'll take a payment online, but you still have to show up to the store physically to have the warranty explained in person and to verify the product. And then they would agree to ship it somewhere domestically within Japan. There was no international shipping allowed. They did everything in their power to keep it in the country. Now, thankfully, Josh happened to have a friend in Japan that could go to the store and verify it, and then we could use my contact in Japan that was a little bit more familiar of shipping things out of the country. So this really, truly was a big group effort, and I hope you guys enjoyed these guitars because it really wasn't easy to get them here. Now, why is Fender Japan doing this? It's because there's a lot of guys in the US and other non-native countries that are buying up their limited editions just to flip them. Like on my show, usually I do 1 to make the episode, put that model down in history, people can view it, and then I sell it on and I move on to the next model. But there's other dealers that buy like 10 to 20 of them and continuously flip them. So apparently Fender Japan doesn't really like that. But that's okay. That's kind of why I like featuring Fender Japan products on my show, because it's like the thrill of the hunt, the chase for a nice vintage piece, but on a brand new guitar. And not everybody knows how to import things. Now, if you're curious why Josh needs 2 of these, is he a super ultra collector needing all of them? No, one is actually going to be a gift to someone who's special in his life. So they're each going to have a different view of the mountain, which I think is pretty cool. So I'm curious, which one do you guys like better? At first, I really thought I was going to prefer this one, but just the straight up peak of Mount Fuji is actually very nice. It's got some really nice deep colors within this. However, over here, I I was not expecting it to be quite as yellowed. And besides these really reminding me of my Donald Duck Telecaster, I did not know to expect that there would be texture within the artwork. I'm not sure if these are screen printed on or if there's actually an artist doing it and that's why they're so expensive. Unfortunately, that kind of gets lost in translation, but there is a little bit more to these than I had ever expected just out of photos. They are pretty cool. But just a little bit of more information on the 36 views by Hokusai. These were woodblock prints. So the artist would make this, and then it would be a team of other skilled wood carvers that carved that out of a wood block, and then they would put ink over top of that, and then they like press it into the wood block. You can check out this video called The Great Wave by Hokusai, Great Art Explained. It's got a lot of good information in there if you want to get a little bit more deeper into this. But if you learn nothing else, look up his works. They're quite interesting. So now decisions. Which one do I continue the review with? I think I'll do this one on the workbench, but we'll play that one. So let's head on over there now. Inside the Tama River. Well, isn't this just kind of anticlimactic? There's no pick guard to take off. The thing just looks the same. But hey, we can at least take a look underneath our pickup here. This just shows you a regular bridge pickup route for an Esquire or Telecaster, and your 4 holes that secure it, and it is a string through style guitar. However, if you thought these were kind of expensive for what they were, everything in here is the highest end that they possibly could. For example, the pickup is actually a Fender USA 58 American Vintage. You can see how it's all wound up right there. But nothing too special on the bottom of our base plate. As far as the saddles, looks like you got the brass blocks. No slotting within them though. But then we can look at our electronics. So most of Fender's made in Japan stuff, they use kind of the cheaper pots and switches, but this all looks like the really high-end stuff to me. Full-size 250K CTS pots with a large disc ceramic capacitor. And now you might be wondering, hey Trogly, we got one pickup. Why do we still have a 3-way switch? Here's the thing with Esquires. This activates different tone voicings. So it's a master volume, master tone, but position 1 takes the tone out of the circuit, so you get a slightly different sound. Position 2 then will put the tone within the circuit. But then your third position takes that back out of the circuit, but rolls off some of the high-end frequencies using that capacitor. They call it a preset treble roll-off. But hey, that's what your switch is doing. Something else that's a little bit different about these, instead of your regular knurled knobs, it's actually the domed ones. So they're less blocky looking. But here's a quick peek inside of that control cavity as well. Nothing too crazy. I was curious if the design would continue on underneath here, and it does. And again, I just love that this has a little bit of texture to it, because even the originals would have that despite being a woodblock print. It really just does feel like a canvas of some sort. But there's Mount Fuji off in the background. And this is the Tama River. You've got your guy with a horse carrying some stuff. Got a little fisherman dude over here. Very influential Japanese art. To get into it a little bit more, the whole Edo period, that's when Japan was closed off from the rest of the world. Like, you'd be killed if you tried to leave Japan or come into it. So things like the Great Wave artwork symbolizes the fear that they had of like leaving the country and things like that. And if you actually look at that artwork, that also has Mount Fuji in it. You just gotta look. But when they opened up again, these woodblock prints, it was basically a touristy thing to sell to people and just became part of Japan's culture. So I think that's why they wanted to honor their culture with these. And the reason why you see so much blue here is it just became cheap for them to get these dyes from China. Before then, it was like really expensive. So this artist kind of overused that because it was seen as really fancy at that time. But the yellowing is an interesting touch. As far as guitar stuff, that's pretty much it for the top. We can look around the edge. The design doesn't go all the way around, but it does lip a little bit over the corner, but not by too much. I think one of my favorite parts of this artwork is actually down here. It reminds me of like an old-fashioned map or a globe. Like this is Africa right here and then Europe, so it's a little bit squished closer than usual. And you've got your South Pole area here. Maybe we'll just call this Hawaii for fun. But this is a multi-pieced ash body. We can take a look at that on the back. But this utilizes a vintage placement for your truss rod. And the neck is straight up maple and you have a real rosewood fretboard. This one's got a really nice rosy streakiness to it. However, the thing about Fender Japan is they like to sand their rosewood boards so silky, velvety smooth. They really take time to make things right. I mean, this is straight out of the box. I did not do my usual fret polishing because it just doesn't need it. They definitely put a little bit bit of extra pride within these. But the board utilizes a 9.5-inch fretboard radius and our usual 25.5-inch scale. Then I measure 1.64 at the nut, 2.02 at the 12, a first fret neck depth of 0.84, and 0.87 by the 12. It was advertised as a U-shaped neck. However, I mean, it doesn't feel as big as that might suggest. I would say it's somewhere in the medium category. Here's a look at that neck profile, 1st fret and 12th fret. It almost looks slightly more D-shaped to me, but maybe this is the U part. Because when I think of a U-shaped neck, I think something closer to this versus what we got. I mean, feeling it right here on the bench, I would say it starts off a nice C shape, but it quickly tapers off to a flat spot on the back of the neck before it's more so just like a straight up D. But now switching over to our mountainous one, this one stays a C until about right here where you start to get that flattening to it again. So maybe there's some hand sanding nature to that. Outside of the dimensions, the nut material is actually made of bone. So another nice feature. But now let's move on to our headstock. We've got our Fender Esquire branding, and the string tree was interesting. That's kind of like what they use on bass guitars. And then for our tuners, it's the vintage poke it down, wrap it around style. But now we can move on to the back. This is very interesting to me. I didn't know to expect this. So the white does also kind of encroach upon the edge of this, and it's not like a perfectly straight line. So whether they masked this off and paint got underneath or they actually painted it. But I didn't actually look at the stock photos any further, so this was a bit of a surprise when it showed up, but in a roundabout way, I kind of like it. I've already told you this is supposed to be a canvas, so it wraps around the side, and then you can see the wooden interior, and then usually the back side of the canvas, but they just decided to make it all wood. It's an interesting statement piece, and let's face it, most of these are more so an art display, so no one will ever see the back except for a player. But it looks like a bare minimum of a 3-piece ash body, but hey, it wasn't that long ago that Fender was saying we're never going to use ash again, but here we still are. But we've got our 6-string through ferrules there. Our output jack is located on the side. Got a strap button here and another one there. And here's our special Fender Japan Tokyo Harajuki. I'm kind of surprised they didn't put a first anniversary on this one. However, here's the thing about these art ones. They realized there was such a demand. They're going to continue to sell them. It's just the additional runs will be much later in the year, and it seems like they might also offer it on a slight lottery system. However, the Black Stratocasters, as far as I'm aware, they're not redoing that run. So I could see the first runs of these becoming maybe a little bit collectible a bit in the future. But we do have a 1-piece neck here, no skunk stripe, and it is maple. That's some really nice wood grain on this one. And as far as our headstock, you've got your regular serial number. I have to hide it so they don't ban us from buying more. I just want to document your products, Fender Japan. Why do you gotta make it so hard? I love you guys. If you're wondering why we haven't seen any lately, it's because my dealer that I used to get a lot of these from got cut off. They can't send any Fender Japan products outside of their country anymore to stick within their Fender contracts. That was a sad day. But if you're interested in something over there, I do have workarounds, but I try not to bug him unless it's something really cool that I have to have and or document. Or a viewer of the show 100% is ready to sponsor. But I wonder if the mountain one is heavier. It's 7 pounds 3.6 ounces, but our river is 7 pounds 13. But let's go ahead, plug it in, and hear how these sound. So it's one pickup, but 3 different presets. This one just has no tone control. Just a straight up fire breather, but that middle position adds your tone control in. You can tell it's just not quite as bright as this. That's before you even take any of the tone off. So your neck position's basically just position 2 with the tone almost off. But maybe maybe a little bit clearer than that. The initial use for that was to lay down some bass lines. So there we go, one of the Fender Japan Art Canvas guitars. What are my final thoughts? I actually liked it better than I thought it would. I've always been watching these as they create more and more of them and didn't really understand why someone would want one. But with these new limited edition ones, I mean, they speak volumes about Japan, so I can see why they did become popular. It's kind of an interesting color scheme with our natural back with the white sides and our design on the top. But as far as a player, these things are really raunchy little beasts. That's a really hot bridge pickup. And as far as whether you want the tone in the circuit or you want to have your faux bass lines, I guess I'll leave that up to you. For me, I'll just leave it full fire breather all the time. But what I actually found most fascinating about this is most Esquires have a pick guard. But since these don't, it frees up the guitar in a similar way to like a one pickup Les Paul Custom that doesn't have a pick guard. You just want to strum like crazy on one of these things. Now you kind of paid a premium for your paint job, but all of this is a nice satin finish, including the back of the neck. I forgot to mention that over on the workbench. This is all a nice premium satin polyurethane lacquer. But it doesn't feel like the kind that's gonna buff up really quickly on you, but I'm sure with enough rubbing it eventually will. I don't think it's so fragile that you dare not touch these display pieces ever. But I had fun with these. I hope you guys enjoyed checking them out. Thank you for trusting me, Josh, to help you get these guitars and share them with us. And if you need help getting a guitar from Japan, you can reach out. I can't always help, but there's some situations where I'm able to. All right, troglodytes, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow on the next one. Take care.